Hello and welcome to Lucid Totality. I'm Leah Wald and I'm here with Tyler Jenks. And the topic of today is the one security that has been approved by the SEC having to do with Bitcoin. And then, as always, we're going to get to price time and see what's going on in the Bitcoin market. Tyler?
Hello, everybody. This is our second vlog, and this is January the 23rd. And it is a fantastic day, week, year, decade, and we believe one of the most important and fantastic centuries in human history. We'll try to make that clear to you why we think that. It brings all sorts of very optimistic, but we believe realistic observations about what the 20th and 21st century are all about. As I said, this is our second vlog. We've already laid out for you in our first podcast vlog some of the things we're going to be covering over the next 10 or 20. And it's going to get very interesting very quickly. Today we decided we're going to talk about one topic, and it will lead into one more topic that we will talk about yesterday, and we'll get in just a moment. Leah?
Fantastic. Thank you, Tyler. So simply put, tell us about this security.
As Leah mentioned, over the last 10 years since Bitcoin was introduced, there was a period of time of 4, 5, 6 years where it was basically the only cryptocurrency. And then all of a sudden we started getting other cryptocurrencies, a number of forks away from the original blockchain. And that began to call into question regulators. What are they going to do about it? They weren't sure. The community wasn't sure. 3 years ago, the Securities and Exchange Commission approved a single security that goes by the name of the Bitcoin Investment Trust. So it's been around for 3 years now after approval. It's grown very rapidly. It can be bought by anyone, anywhere, through their brokerage firm. The ticker symbol is GBTC, or Golf Bravo Tango Charlie, GBTC. You can just put it in your computer or on your iPhone, connected to E-Trade or Fidelity or Schwab, and you will see all you need to see about this particular security. We wanted to talk about it today. Leah's been asking me a bunch of questions about ETFs that are coming up and other securities, mutual funds that may or may not be approved. But as we sit here today on the 23rd of January, there's still only a single security that's traded on an exchange. This is over the counter, that went through an approval process with the Securities and Exchange Commission. So we're going to go into some details about that today, what it is, what it does, what it doesn't do. It will be a brief vlog today, but it's going to lead us to another one tomorrow.
So, thank you, Tyler. Given that it's not really Bitcoin, what makes GBTC so valuable?
Great question. It is not Bitcoin, but it comes pretty darn close to mirroring the price action of Bitcoin. And unfortunately, I had to use that caveat, pretty darn close. It's an important one, and it must be understood before anyone considers purchasing this particular security. Let me explain a little bit about the logistics of it. It's in the form of a trust, and if you buy shares of that trust, the trust goes out and buys Bitcoins. So if you put in $1,000 or $500 or $100,000, in some cases there are people that have put millions of dollars into GBTC. When that money goes in, the trust buys Bitcoins. And you have a share of the trust by the number of shares that you own. They can be bought and sold like any other shares in Tesla or IBM or in an ETF like the SPYs or the Diamonds. You can buy it, you can sell it. You don't have to hold it for a period of time. You will pay a commission, whatever your broker charges. The places I have been using, it's almost insignificant. You could buy $100,000 worth of GBTC for less than $5 commission. Okay, so that's the basic structure, and that's how it works. That's how you buy it. That's how you sell it. Leah?
Thanks, Tyler. And with all the forks that have already happened, that are continuing to happen, the many, many more that I believe are in the pipeline, how does that affect GBTC? Do they get both? Do they then sell it? Can you explain what happens with the forking hard forks?
Yeah, that's great insight, and a lot of people miss that. Remember what I said, the trust takes your money when you buy their shares and buys actual Bitcoin and holds those Bitcoins in storage. Every time that there is a major fork, as opposed to a lot of the minor ones, and we won't go into that today, there will be other time for us to do that, but when there's a major fork that results in a major new cryptocurrency away from the blockchain, the original blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, if the trust is holding Bitcoins and is awarded the same as anybody that owns a Bitcoin with the new currency, the new cryptocurrency, so does the trust. So, for example, just in the last 3 months, there have been a number of forks, and some of those the trust did not accept for their own reasons, in terms of not believing that it was a significant new coin, not believing that it was a significant fork that would really go anywhere or be liquid enough. But those major forks that have taken place in the last 3 months, the last 6 months, the last year, the trust receives those coins. But the trust can't own anything other than Bitcoin. So what do? They sell them, they take that cash, and they distribute that cash to you as a shareholder in the form of a dividend. And believe me, that can be a significant dividend.
Interesting. And so at least from what I read in the news today, the SEC is absolutely making it very difficult for new securities to come out. They're also beginning to question the attorneys that have brought them out in the past regarding the due diligence. Do you believe that there will be new securities coming out similar to GBTC, and will that make GBTC less or more valuable?
Well, I'm going to answer that in 2 ways. The second part of my answer will be a direct answer to your question. The first part, I want to lay a little groundwork. GBTC, the way it is structured in terms of its interaction with you as an investor, is, if you keep in mind, if you've traded them before, they are almost like what are called closed-end funds. And the difference between a closed-end fund and an open-end fund, which is what a mutual fund is is that you can buy and sell that closed-end fund, but it can sell at a premium, in other words, a price above the net asset value of the assets, or it can sell at a discount. In other words, a price at a given moment on a given day that is actually less than the net asset value or the total valuation of the portfolio. That is the way GBTC works as a trust. The price of it can vary above and sometimes in rare instances even below or at a discount to the real value of the Bitcoins being held in trust. And let me explain quickly what the relationship is. When you buy one share of GBTC, and you can buy one share through your broker, that equals 1/10 of a Bitcoin. If you are to buy 10 shares, that of course is 1 Bitcoin. Now, if there is no premium or discount, the value of the shares that you own will be very close if you own 10 shares to the value of 1 Bitcoin. There is a fee charged by those that manage the trust that you will have to pay over time, over a year if you hold it for a year. If you hold it for a day, it will be insignificant. But that is called slippage, which is a cost of the transaction of the commission, plus what the management fee and expenses are of the trust from the value of your share compared to a Bitcoin, or in my example, your 10 shares compared to 1 Bitcoin. I'm going to now pull up a chart to answer Leah's question about other securities that might come out and be approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Will they be the same or different than GBTC? And how will that affect GBTC? Great question, but it's going to take a couple of minutes to look at something for you to understand. So what I'm going to do is do a screen share, and I'm going to pick out a chart that I have made by hand, which should now be up on your screen.
Looks good, Tyler.
And what this is a chart of is the premium or discount of GBTC compared to the price of Bitcoin. And it goes back 2.5 years. GBTC has been out for over 3 years now. And I'm working on the last 3 months, making some changes, but this will give you an idea. Very quickly, what you're looking at in this chart, where my cursor is the 0 line coming across the bottom. That 0 line means that if you see one of these price points below the 0 line, such as here, 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 and here, you are actually, if you bought them on that day, buying at a discount to the value of the Bitcoins you're buying. Anything above the 0 line is a premium that you're paying. And it is a huge premium at certain points. The way the scale works, this is pretty small, but you might be able to see it. Where the cursor is now is 20% premium. Now it's 40%. Now it's 60, all the way up to 120% premium. What in the heck is he talking about? Are you telling me, Tyler, that at various times in the last 2.5 years, someone buying GBTC was willing to pay double the value of Bitcoin? Absolutely. That's what the chart shows. The chart also shows that most of the time down here, at about the 40% premium line, that is the average, close to the mean, close to the median of the data points. In other words, throw a dart on a given day and you might very possibly be looking at a 40% premium to Bitcoin. Well, that's extravagant. Why would anybody want to spend that kind of extra money to buy Bitcoin? Well, the answer comes from Leah's initial question and her point that this is the only security available where you can easily buy and sell, not only in retirement accounts, but in any account, anything that is closely related to the Bitcoin price. And if you take a look at a chart of the GBTC price and compare it with the price of Bitcoin over the last 3 years, you'll see they're both moving up in what we called in our first vlog a hyperwave. They're both moving up at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of percentage points per month, per quarter, and even over 1,000, 1,400% on a yearly basis. So it is closely correlated with price, with the one caveat that I just talked about, which is that you must remember before you buy GBTC, make sure you do this very simple calculation that I am now going to do for you by looking at another chart in just a moment when we look at Bitcoin prices. We'll take a look at the most recent Bitcoin price just seconds ago, and we will compare it to the price of GBTC, and we will together calculate what the premium is today.
Great. Price time. Bitcoin markets, and I hear a lot of bears roaring. So can you please shed light on all this pessimism, us potentially hitting the lower support band? We are almost at the lower support band, potentially going under. What are you seeing today?
Yeah, it's fascinating. We talked about it yesterday, and a lot of the other analysts have come on in the last 24 hours with their valuations of Elliott Wave or the sequential trading system or a number of others to try to figure out where the heck this thing is going. So what you're now looking at is a chart I will be bringing up regularly on what's called Bitcoin Wisdom. I just happen to like it for a number of reasons. There are some great other pieces of software and applications that you might well use. But what we're looking at right now is, I'm going to make this a little bit larger. The numbers are sort of small, but this is a look on a 4-hour chart. Each of the candles is 4 hours of Bitstamp, which is basically Bitcoin traded on Bitstamp. You could look at Bitfinex or a lot of the other exchanges. And what you see right here is that we're at 10,934, 10,925. And here is where we have come over the last 12 hours. We were down as low as 9,879 about 8 hours ago, 9,907 about 16 hours ago. On a bigger chart, notice over here on the left, this was the low on this chart of 9,222. We're still above that. But notice that from that low of 9,222, we tried to move up and get above these two shorter term and longer term moving averages. We did for about a 1 day period and then began going down lower again. We've seen this pattern over and over and over again since December the 16th. In our first vlog, we pulled this chart up, which is a 12-hour chart. It goes to the peak on December the 16th of 19,666. We dropped all the way down in 6 days, established a couple of very low points. A lot of people thought that was it. That's the end of the correction. And then the price tried to move up, cut back through both of the moving averages, and then failed. And then we went sideways for a while and then broke back up through both of the moving averages, went higher, and then failed. Then we go sideways, staying below the moving averages, and failed. Into last week, several days ago, where we hit 9,222, taking out all of these lows that had been established over the previous 3 weeks. Now we got a move back up, and then we failed. And right now, we are sitting in this last candle at just about the lowest level this has been in a month. And I sent out a tweet this morning saying we are still in a downtrend. That downtrend has continued now for over a month, going on to 5 weeks. We've lost close to, if not slightly more than half the value of Bitcoin in that period of time. I also pointed out yesterday, if you go back and look at the more detailed podcast vlog that we did yesterday, that we're looking at the bad news side of the history of Bitcoin. We've seen 3 similar moves over the last year. All of them ended the same way, by prices taking off again and spiking much, much higher. And that occurred the year before, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before, all the way back 10 years. Some people are saying, yes, but this time it's different. There's no way to tell if this time is different. We're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about the Hyperwave that I introduced yesterday, and you will see why I believe that maybe one of these times it's going to be different. However, I don't believe it's this time. I believe we're in a downtrend, and we've got a target somewhere around 7,500 to 8,000. There are a lot of analysts that agree with that. There's a lot of analysts that do not, but that's my personal viewpoint. But I wanted to do one other thing after looking at this chart and bringing everyone up to speed on what Leah and I are thinking about the very current market. And let's remember this price around 10,900 for Bitcoin. And then what we want to do is we want to do a very simple calculation by taking the price of GBTC, the security we're talking about today, which is hung around the $1,680 per share level up to around $1,700 today. Let's just say 1,680. And just do a simple calculation along with me. Take 1680 and add a 0. So you've got 16800, which is 10 times the price of 1 share of GBTC, and divide that by this price that we just talked about on Bitcoin. Let's call it 11,000 now because it says 11,000 on my computer. So if you divide GBTC times 10 by that price, you will see that there is a premium if you were to buy GBTC right now of 52, almost 53% over the value of the underlying Bitcoin. And there are thousands of people buying it at that level. Why? The answer is simple. Because they've seen that premium go from 50% up to 60, 70, 80, 90, 100%, up as high as 125% in the past. So the assumption is it's not just the price of Bitcoin, but it's the direction of the size of the premium down to the size of a discount that must be taken into consideration if you're going to buy GBTC. Now, Leah, you asked the right question. I thought I had to fill in all of that detail before I answered your question, which was, what happens if other securities are approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission that are similar to, or maybe have different qualities than GBTC? What's going to happen to GBTC? And I'm going to answer it very quickly. If other securities come out that don't have that premium or discount over and above the Bitcoin price, I believe that the premium on GBTC will continually diminish until it approaches 0, because that will be what these new securities are going to offer. If the Securities and Exchange Commission approves of the ETFs that have been coming before them over the last 60 days, they are going to be in the form of an ETF that is going to tie itself very closely to the price every day of Bitcoin itself. So until that happens, the only way you can put Bitcoin in any form into a retirement account is through GBTC. It's the only security. It's the only thing that trades on an exchange. So that's important. It's got a monopoly. But as soon as a monopoly is challenged, everybody gets to weigh the benefits and the deficits amongst and between all of the choices. So I think it behooves the Securities and Exchange Commission to open this up as quickly and efficiently as possible, to make it much more easy for individuals to be able to participate in this fabulous market.
Fantastic. And I think that we will close it there unless Tyler has any other additional thoughts. But everyone, thank you so much for listening and looking forward to seeing you next time. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comment box below. And if you like what you see, give us a like, please. Tyler?
Great. Thank you very much for listening today. This leads us into tomorrow, where we are going to talk specifically about the Securities and Exchange Commission looking into not only new securities, but existing ICOs. And we even heard this morning that they're beginning to get a little bit concerned about some of the folks that surround the initial coin offerings, including possibly attorneys, CPAs, marketing teams. So we'll look at that tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.